Hey guys, my name is Hannah and I would say, let's have some fun today. Okay, today is a very hard video I wanted to make for a long time. Like you can tell in the title, today is the day where I want to again rank my Mcgrath palettes for you guys. It was really hard. I laid them all out in front of me, looked which palette I used the most, which palettes I used a little bit more or less, and yeah, it really came down to preference for me. So that you know right away, I love all of my Mcgrath palettes. They get all love from me. I use them, I try to switch them up here and there, try to use another one for the next day, or you know, I try to use them really all, give all of my palettes the love that they are deserving. But there are palettes that I'm gravitating a little bit more towards because the color story is maybe a little bit more up my alley in the moment, or I really feel more the need for those palettes. I really feel those palettes a little bit more in the moment, if you know what I mean. So there will be older palettes, really old palettes that you can't get anymore. It's not the majority of palettes that I will show you today. The most palettes I will show you, they are still available, hopefully. And yeah, there are also the holiday palettes and everything else. I don't have everything from Pat, but I have a good amount, I would say. So all in all, I think there are 14 palettes that are laid out right now in front of me, and I will rank them with you today. So if you are curious and if you want to know which is my least and which is my favorite one in the moment, then stay tuned and let's get started. Okay, let's get started with number 14, the last in the bundle. And it's an older one and I don't think you can get it anymore. Maybe from some retailers, I'm not sure. But it's my Mcgrath Mothership Rose Decadence palette, the 6-pan palette right here. It's this beauty. This is the last place in the ranking because those are really colors I have so often in the Mcgrath line, and therefore I'm not really gravitating that often towards it, but I'm still using it. It's still going strong. I can't get myself to declutter this one, so it means something to me. But when I see all my other palettes that are right now in front of me, I think this is the least favorite of mine because there is not that specialness that I'm searching for when it comes to Mcgrath, and those are generic colors from her that she's using very often in her line. So I have those colors in other palettes from her. That's because this is the last place, but aside that, I really love this one as well. I think it's a beautiful palette. I think I get stunning looks out of it, and I get fairly often compliments from other people when I'm wearing this palette. And also from people that normally don't compliment on eyeshadow looks or something like that. So I think this is also something that we shouldn't overlook, if you know what I mean. But I really like it. But when I see all my other palettes, this is really the one that I use the least of all my other ones. So this is because this is ranking at number 14. The next one is also a 6-pan that you can't get anymore, but I really love it. I just don't use it that often. And it's my Subliminal Platinum Bronze palette. It's this beauty right here. Of course, I love the packaging. It's so beautiful. But I also really love the inside. And those are so beautiful, cool tones from Pat that I don't see that often in her line, especially those tones. I think those are so unique for her line. They're all with a somewhat lilac-y undertone. You have some with a little bit of a lilac-y undertone. I really love that. There are some cooler tones. There's also, again, like always, a gold in here, but it's a really cool toned gold. I really love it as well. It's more like a bronzy gold, you could say. And yeah, all in all, I really love the curation of this palette. I really love the color story. And I'm not bothered by the one matte in here because I think with this whitish inner corner shade, you can really blend everything out so beautifully. I love it. I need to use it more often. I really need to. But when it comes down to it, I know I don't gravitate towards it that often anymore because I have so many other beautiful palettes from her. But when it really comes down to it, guys, I really love it. It's number 13, but it's not less beautiful than the other ones. I really love it. I just don't use it that often because it's not that special anymore to me, and I'm someone who likes new shiny stuff, you know. But I really need to use it more often. It's a little bit older, I have to say that, but I don't care. I don't think it's looking old, I don't think it's smelling old, so as long as the eyeshadows are looking good and well, you know, I'm using them. So I think it's a beautiful palette, and this one was my first ever Pat McGrath palette I bought for myself, and I'm not regretting it a little bit. This really started my love for Pat McGrath, so I really, really love it, and it will always have a special place in my heart, and it's continuing in my collection for sure. Number 12 is a 4 pan. It's a quad, and it's the Nocturnal Nirvana quad. Whoop, this one right here. I think it's really, really beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I'm not using it that often anymore like I used to. I really love it. I think this purple is a little bit dry, to be honest, but once it's on the eyes, it's looking beautiful. It's with a really, really dark base, I have to say. I don't usually like those kind of purples, but I really love this one regardless of the dark base. But all in all, I think this palette is beautiful. It's looking beautiful, especially this blue and this shifty green. I think you can see it when I'm turning it a little bit. That shift that it's in here. It's really beautiful. It has a really, yeah, darkenish shift in it. It's interesting. Something like a grayish, purpley shift that this green have. It's a really, really unique green that I have in my collection for sure. I don't have a green that's shifting like this one. And I really love this palette right here. I don't use it that often anymore, though, to be honest. But I really love it. I think it's beautiful. It's stunning on the eyes. But I think I developed now a really big Pat McGrath collection, so this one gets a little bit more overlooked for me. But I also really want to use it a little bit more. Love it, love it, love it. But in the end, it's on place 12. And yeah, I need to rank it somewhere, guys. But it was really hard, really hard. I love it regardless. Number 11, it's again a quad. And it's my Celestial Divinity Luxe Quad in Fleur Fantasia. Yeah, it's a little bit higher ranked than the Nocturnal Nirvana Quad. And it's because it's a subtle look. It's a subtle look you will get out of it. It's really, really subtle, I have to say. But it's a beautiful, subtle look. I love it. Somehow I really love it. It's not reminding me of Pat McGrath, though. It's a little bit more like I got a Dior palette or something like that, but I also love Dior palettes, but it's not what I'm searching in Pat McGrath palettes. So this is because this is also a little bit lower ranked, but all in all, I used it not that long ago because, you know, the spring feels are a little bit more right now something that I feel inside, so I need to use a little bit more spring colors, and this is reminding me of spring. It was also in my spring color palettes that I recommend, and I really love this one regardless. But it's more subtle, so that you know. It's a really subtle look you will get out of it, but it's a beautiful subtle look. I really, really love it, especially this lilac-y shade. It's so stunning. I also love this peachy shade. I think those are a little bit more unique shades from Pat. This is a color we know, but you can use it as a beautiful topper. You know, it's all cohesive and beautiful, and this is something I really enjoy in a 4-pan, that I know I can use every color and I can mix and match them beautifully, but I also can make a little bit more than just one look out of a quad, you know? So this is giving me all of that, and I really, really love it because of that. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a little bit underrated overall. I know it's not the typical Pat McGrath thing that we are looking for, but it's a little bit different, and this is also something I enjoy. I really like this one, and I think it's deserving to be a little bit higher than the other ones. I really love it, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful quad. Okay, number 10. It's also a 6-pan, and it's a collaboration with Pat, and it's the Pat McGrath and Bridgerton collab, and I have the palette Diamond of the First Water. It's this beauty right here. I love it so much, and this is number 10. It's a beautiful palette. I used and abused this one, and I still doing it. I really love it. I use it so often, and it's a beautiful, stunning palette. I love red tones. I love rosy tones on myself. I love blue especially. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful palette overall. I love those newer, yeah, more satiny kind of shades that she brought out in this palette. I love this. I love every shade in here, guys. I think it's a beautiful, cohesive palette, and I think it's also beautiful on the eyes. Yeah, I have to rank it somewhere, so it's number 10, but I really love it. But there are other palettes I love a little bit more than this one, I use a little bit more than this one, and they are getting me a little bit more excited. But regardless, I need to stress this, I can't stress this enough, I love every palette. I love this one so much. I think it's a beautiful, stunning palette. I love how it looks on the eyes. It's stunning. Those are my colors, but in the end, when it comes down to it, I get a little bit more variety with other palettes in Mcgrath collection, in the Mcgrath line. So yeah, this is number 10, but it's a beautiful, stunning palette. You will hear this throughout the whole video. I can't stress this enough that I love every palette so much. And yeah, I think in the moment this would be my number 10 though. The next one is again a quad, and it's my Venus in Fleur Luxe Quad Voyeuristic Vixen. It's a really hard name. And I have the Lunar New Year version of it. But yeah, you can get it in the normal version as well, I think, from Pet's side and from other retailers as well. I have this version because I couldn't get my hands on the other one in that moment. It was sold out, but I think you can get it again. Really love this one. It's beautiful, especially this shade, guys. Oh, this shifty shade right here. This is so stunning, this quad. You can make so many beautiful different looks out of this one, and you can get also a really beautiful cohesive look. Love also this one, right? I think everything is playing so nicely together in this little quad. It's a magical quad for me. I really love it. I love this brown. I love, you know, I love cool tones, I love warm tones, I love both so much in the moment. I can't decide which one I like more. I think I'm a big fan of cool and warm tones. I think warm tones are suiting my eyes sometimes a little bit more, but cool tones also bring... I have more grayish bluish eyes, you know, and I think warm tones are bringing out more those blue tones in my eyes, and those cooler tones are bringing more out those grayish tones in my eyes. So I really like both because of that. I think they are both having a purpose for my eye color, and I, yeah, can't decide when it comes down to it, but really love this warm brownish shade. When it comes to browns, I think I really like more those warmer brown tones than the cooler tones, because they are so cozy and beautiful looking, and this is a little bit more on the brownish, warmer, neutral side, I would say. Really love it. This quad is stunning. I love this glitter in here. I love the effect that it's giving my eyes. You can make it subtle, you can make it wham bam with this really glittery shade in there. Yeah, you have options, and I really like to have options, and I'm not regretting it a little bit that I bought this one for myself. Number 8 will maybe be a little bit of a surprise to you. It was also a surprise for me, but I really thought about it, and I don't use it that often. I don't know why, because it's maybe a little bit more vampy, but I also like vampy. So I'm not sure why I don't use it that often. It's often not crossing my mind to use this palette. And it's the Mcgrath Mothership Subversive palette right here. I really love this one, guys. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful, stunning palette. Especially those 4 shades in here are so unique from her, so stunning. I love this blue. I love this goldeny greenish shade. This is so beautiful, beyond beautiful on the eyes. So stunning. I don't use it that often though. I don't know why, but I use it often in that sense. But when it comes down to it, and I compare it to my other palettes, it's getting, I think, the least use out of my bigger Mothership 10-pan palettes. It's a little bit sad. I need to use it more often, but I love it. I love it. It's so stunning. It's so beautiful. I know, I think around a year I ranked it really high, because it was a little bit newer maybe and more shiny, and in the back of my mind I knew I don't use it that often, but I didn't want it to rank it a little lower because it's a 10-pan and it was a little bit more costly. So maybe, you know, you rank it instinctively a little bit higher than you would normally do. But now I was really honest with myself, and I looked at all the palettes I have, and this is really a 10-pan I'm using the least of all of them, because it's just, yeah, it's just because of the colors. I'm not gravitating that often to those really dark colors. You can make it also really light, but For a 10 pan, you know, the majority of the colors are really dark and sultry. And I also use often dark colors. Like you can see, this is also a little bit darker, but this is really a black and a really dark brown and a black again and a really darker bluish shade. And yeah, you have more of those really strong dark colors that you can't sheer out that easily, like those colors that I have on today maybe. So therefore this is ranked a little bit lower. But regardless, guys, if you are eyeing this palette, if you want something that's really unique from Pat, I think this is a really unique one. It's a beautiful, unique one, and I love to have it in my collection. When I'm using it, I love the eye looks that I'm creating with this one. I love everything about it. It's just the colors are not colors that I'm using that often. So I can justify to, you know, not justify maybe, but so if it comes down to it, I don't get my money that much worth out of this one like I get maybe from the other palettes. So that you have an understanding how I'm thinking a little bit about it. But all in all, I'm using it fairly often. I'm using it fairly often and I really like it. I try to rotate my palette uses. I try to don't use the same palette every day. But if I'm feeling like it, I do it, you know? I don't want to restrict myself and say, oh, I really want to use this palette, but I can't because I used it 2 days before or I used it yesterday. I don't restrict myself in that sense. If I really feel like I want to use a palette the whole week because I love it so much, I do it. But I really try to at one point say to myself, okay, you need to rotate a little bit more, you need to look in your collection what you have, you need to also incorporate some other palettes in so that you have a little bit more use out of everything. I try really to do that in the moment, and so this one is getting used, but like I said, in comparison to the other ones, it's a little bit less. The next one, and it's also maybe a surprise to you, but I really like it, and it's also so unique from Pat. It's her Christmas release palette, and it's a Mothership Mega, and it's the Celestial Nirvana palette. This beauty right here. Guys, it's so unique, so stunning. You don't have those special shades in here. I think you already know that. But it's so beautiful and it's really unique in terms of the matte shades that you have in here. It's the first time Pat are giving us some colorful, beautiful, strong matte shades. And I really love them. But again, when it comes to Pat Mcgrath, my kind of shades from her are always the shimmery, the metallic shade. And I also really like the satin shades in here, I have to say. I know this palette got some mixed reviews because of that, because you don't have those glittery kinds of shades from her, but you really get some strong metallics in here. Especially this middle row right here. If you are using those metallics, they are really strong, stunning and beautiful. And those are more satin kind of shades, as well as this first row, I think. They're really like more those more settled version of a metallic. But I really love it regardless. I love this shade. This is so beautiful and unique and stunning. I love this rosy row right here. I love everything in here. It's just because it's a little bit more ranked down because those are shades that I'm not using every day. Those are really bold, colorful shades. I also like to use something like that, but you know, in the moment I'm not gravitating that often towards those shades. I don't really want something so bright and bold. So that's because, but you can make something settle out of it. I know it's not looking like that, but if you really want, you can do it. You can just use something out of here as a liner and use a subtle shimmer like this one or this one and just dab it really lightly over your lid. But you know, this is not the main purpose of this palette, I think, and I'm not seeing it as something like that. You can use it, of course, in that way. And for the real purpose to be bright and bold and colorful and fun, I'm not using it that often like I use the other ones. But I really love it regardless. I think it's a beautiful, stunning palette and always will and always can recommend Pat Mcgrath to lovers of shimmery, metallic-y shades. But if you want a really first real impression with Pat, I wouldn't recommend this necessary to be the first palette. I don't think you can have it anymore because it was her limited edition Christmas collection like she bring out every year. But you know, regardless of that, I think I wouldn't recommend something like that as your first palette, because if you want the real deal, you can see more what it's like to have a Pat Mcgrath palette with her 10 pans, I think, I would say. But on the other hand, I have other mega palettes that you will see in this ranking that I ranked really high and I really love them. So I think it's yeah, you can't say that for every palette. But with this one, I wouldn't recommend this over a 10 pan, you know, if I be honest with you. So let's move on to the next one. Let's come to palette number 6. And this is also a mega palette, a Christmas palette from Pat, and it's the Celestial Odyssey palette. This one is ranked a little bit higher than my Nirvana palette because those are more colors I'm using on a daily basis. Those are beautiful, stunning colors. I love them so much. I think the color variety in here is also really, really stunning, especially this green and this blue, guys. Oh, those are metallic, unreal shades. Really, those are beautiful metallic shades. They are so strong, and you also, if you are in the right light, you see so many beautiful glitter particles on your eyes with those two. Also, this newer formula at that time from her, it's something like an crushed, I don't know how it's called, but it's a little bit newer and it's stunning. It's so glittery, so beautiful, and it's this beautiful toppery shade that you can use for every look that you are creating with this palette. It's a beautiful palette. I love also, I always love this type of shades for my eyes, those really bronzy type of shades, because I think they're suiting my eye color also really nice, and I love to use those ones. Overall, I also love rosy tones. I'm a big fan of rosy tones on my eyes. I can't get enough of beautiful pinky rosy shades. Overall, this palette is serving me really nice. You have a variety of colors in here. Yeah, you can make your decision, you know, every day you can use another color. You can really make something completely different the next day than the day before, and I love this kind of variety that you get in here, even though those are wearable, quote-unquote wearable shades that you can use for every day. If you don't want that, you will never come out with the same eye look on your eye. You know, you can really mix it up, I think, with this palette. Really love it, really love the looks that I created, and I'm using it non-stop. I used it not that long ago, in fact. So I really love this one, and it's deserving to be a little bit higher ranked than my other ones, I think. Number 5 is also again a 10 pan, and it's my Midnight Sun palette. This palette is so stunning, especially those special shades are so beautiful. In this palette, not like in her other palettes, I think here you can really get a little bit more of variety, because you have a green, you have a lilac, you have a bronzy shade, you have a gold, you have a somewhat of a dirty bronzy gold in here. You can really mix it up. I really love it. I love this really yeah, warm brownish shade right here. I think it's stunning and beautiful. I love that you get 3 mattes in here, that you have a little bit more of variety on that side as well. I think this palette is stunning and beautiful, guys. Stunning and beautiful. I just don't use it that often in the moment like my other palettes that I have, but every time I use this one, I think my eyes are in the end so beautiful looking, so mature, so sultry, so nice. So I can't stress this enough. This palette is a beautiful and stunning palette. Those are not the colors I'm using that often in the moment. You know, I'm more the type of a rosy toned girl, you know, when it comes down to it, but I love it regardless. When I'm using it, I think it's a beautiful palette, and right now, to be honest, when I'm looking at this palette, I think to myself, tomorrow I want to use this one because it's so beautiful. I really want to use this one a little bit more, but to be fair, I use it often. But not as much as my other ones that are ranking even higher. But I really love it. I regret it not a little bit that I have this one, and I really want to play next time a little bit more with this lilac-y shade all over my lid. I have to say, if you are putting this really high intense glittery shade over what color ever, you really need just a little bit if you want it as a topper, because if you're using more than just a little bit on your finger, like I do sometimes, it overpowers sometimes a little bit the other shadows, because it's so reflective and glittery that it's a little bit, yeah, it's overpowering the color that you layer under there, if you know what I mean. So if you want this color, this topper shade really as a topper, go really lightly in there with your brush, with your finger, whatever, because otherwise I have the feeling it's overpowering sometimes the color that it's underneath. But it's a stunning shade. It's so beautiful, so glittery, so reflective. Whew, you will get a wet eye look in seconds with this one. Really, really love it. It's beautiful and I'm not mad that I have it, not a little bit. Okay guys, we are coming to my top 4 palettes. It was really hard, it was really, really hard, but in the end I think I made a good decision. I really looked which palettes I'm using really often, which palettes I'm using a little bit less often, so I think I got it down this time a little bit better than the last time. So let's get into it. Okay, number 4 is my Divine Rose 2 palette. It's beautiful. You know, I'm a rosy girl. You have a little bit more of lilac-y rosy shades in here. You have really pinky shades in here. You have this beautiful shifty shade in here that is shifting green and rose lilac-y at the same time. Oh, it's beautiful, it's stunning. You have this beautiful toppery shade right here. It's not as glittery, it's really glittery, but it's not like in my Midnight Sun. It's not like this shade I talked a second ago with you about. So it's not that intense, but it's really, this is more like a toppery, I would say, a toppery shade. It's not overpowering the color that you have underneath. It's not doing that, you know, so you can really go a little bit harder in there and put it over your lid, and it's not overpowering the color underneath that much. So it's something also to be appreciative. And I really love this palette, guys. I really love that you have those shades in here. Those 2 matte shades are beautiful and really different from each other, so I think, yeah, you can make some different looks. And overall, it's a beautiful rosy palette. I love rosy tones, and this is my... You can see I used it so often. I have a big dip in this beautiful shade here. I have a big dip in my favorite shade in this palette, and it's this pinky one right here. It's a beautiful satiny kind of shade, and I love those kind of shades so much from her. I think they're so easy to apply, so fast, and you really don't need much work with them. And yeah, overall I think it's a well and nice curated palette, and I love it so much. I use this one so much, guys, so much, you don't believe it. I use it so much, and I still have so much left in here, so I love this one very, very much. But in the moment I'm gravitating a little bit more to my other palettes that I have. So let's come now to the top 3 palettes. Okay, my number 3. This is also a palette some people loved, some people didn't, but I think the most really like this palette. Okay, it's my Mothership Mega. Yeah, you heard it right, it's a Mega palette. I'm so sorry you can't get it anymore, but it's a Mega palette, and it's a Celestial Divinity palette. It was her ever first Mega palette that she brought out. I love this one. I love it, really, guys. I think it's a beautiful, 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 stunning palette. You can do so much with it. You have so much variety in here. And by the way, it's the palette I'm wearing today. I'm thinking about to buy me the Tom Ford Violet Satin or Satine palette, however you call it. I think it's a beautiful palette, and to see if I really like lilac-y shades, because I didn't use lilac-y shades in a long time on my eyes. This is also you can do at home, by the way. If you are not sure if you like a certain color story, look in your collection and put on some colors that are going in that direction. Look if you really like those tones on yourself, because if not, you don't need this palette. And if you see you love it, it's yours. I love it, by the way. But this is another story. But this palette served me, you know, it served me so nice. It served me right, it served me nice. I can do green looks, I can do lilac looks, I can do a little bit more of, yeah, rosy looks also with this one. I can do bronzy looks, a gold. You have so much variety in here. It's so much fun to use this one. I always love my eye look when I use this one. I can't tell you one look that I didn't love with this palette, that I created with this palette. I loved every look. You don't have a special shade in here, so this will tell you something if I rank this one so high, if it's not a special shade in here, not one. But I love it so much that I ranked it so high, because I think I can do everything with this palette, guys. I really love it. It's getting my creative flow really pumping, you know? It's getting it. So I really want to do something with this palette every time I see it. And every time I use it, I fell even more in love with it. And I know why I love it so much. And also I love my eye look today that I created with this one. So it needed to be at number 3. It needed to be ranked. I didn't know at that moment how high I will rank it, but I knew from the beginning that this palette right here, this beauty right here will be ranked really high. So it's my number 3, and this will tell you something. I love it so much, really. My palette number 2, if you know a little bit my collection, you know which palettes are left. But palette number 2 is her newest palette. It's her newest one. I think it's number 10, yeah. It's the palette number 10. And it's her Mothership Moonlit Seduction palette. I love it. I love this shade right here, this beautiful shifty shade. You know, those are not her typical special shades. Those are a little bit, if you want to know something about this palette, click on my video. I have for every palette, I think, that I showed you today. Maybe not the really old ones, but for mostly every palette that I showed you today, I have a video. I love Pat, and every time I have a new palette from her, I do videos. I do dedicated videos on them. So if you want to know about any palette I showed you today, I think also I did have a playlist, a whole playlist just for Pat Mcgrath. So go there, click there, and you can see all the Pat Mcgrath videos I have, and I go a little bit more in depth with every palette. But I really love this one. I love how my eyes are looking with this one. I love the sparkles in here, this beautiful reddish looking sparkles. Those are really stunning, and guys, I can't stress this enough with this palette right here. Really love it. Here you don't have that much variety, to be honest. You can do slightly different looks every time. It's not every time the same, you know, not at all, but it's not that different, like maybe in the Midnight Sun, that you have really different colors and tones in there. Here you have more of the same coolish kind of shades. But I love them. I love how my eyes are looking with them. I love those 4 shades here, those special shades that are not that special. Oh guys, this is so hard sometimes, but I really love them. I think they are special for me. They are really special enough for me because I love how my eyes are looking with them. I love when I'm using them. I love those tones so much. And yeah, this palette is just stunning. Just stunning. I love it, and I think it's deserved to be on the 2nd place. I love it so much, and I use it so much as well. I think it's everyday friendly. It's also night out friendly. The sparkles are unreal on the eyes. They are looking so beautiful and reflective, and I love to look in the mirror when I wear those shades. I always do this, you know, like you want to see how it's sparkling, how sparkly it is, and it's just beautiful. I love it, and I'm not mad that I got this one as well for myself. Of course, I love every Pat Mcgrath palette in my collection, but this one also got a special place in my heart because I think it's so beautiful. And to number 1. Number 1, I really love this one. I think it's stunning. Those are exactly my colors that I love to use on a daily basis, that I love on my eyes. I love how soft I'm looking with those colors, you know, this kind of softness that you get. With those more, yeah, cooler tones, I think I look more sultry and mysterious almost, but those colors are giving me more those cutesy vibes, and this is my Utopian Dream palette from Pat Mcgrath. This is my number 1, guys. I really love it. I love those rosy shades. I love those 4 special shades. Here you have again a more shifty shade in her 4 special shades. It's also something that she included in her, yeah, 2 or even 3, I think, pen motherships. I think it's in the Divine Rose 1, in the Divine Rose 2, and in the Utopian Dream palette, where she included those really beautiful shifty shades as well in her special shades. And I love this one also. I think I love the shifty shade in my Divine Rose 2 palette a little bit more, because I love this texture a little bit more than I do this one. But it's beautiful. It's really stunning and beautiful. Overall, I think this is my #1 palette, because I really love those shades. I really love how my eyes are looking after I'm using those colors. I really think I get some stunning, beautiful looks out of it, and I always love the look that I create with this one. I think I can go a little bit darker, a little bit more rosy, but I also can go a little bit more bright, springtime and fun with it. So this is serving me really, really nice for more than just one purpose, you know? And therefore I also really, really love it. Oh guys, those shades here, those 2 shades, I think those are my absolute favorites in here. Those are her special shades, and you have a really, really shifty, bluish, lilac-y shade in here. It's so stunning and so bright looking, and it's beautiful. And this shade right here, guys, it's a rosy undertone with whitish and also a little bit of pink, I think you have in here. And if you do this one on your eyes, it's transforming every color you have underneath. Every color. It's also so stunning. How can this not be my #1, you know? I really, really love this one. I think my eyes are looking every time so beautiful and stunning with this palette, and it's deserved to be my #1 palette in the moment. You know, it can change every year. It can change every month. I won't lie to you, but I think overall this will always be somewhat of my ranking. It will maybe change slightly in a way every year, but it's every time not much, you know? It's every time on the same page, mostly, I think. So this is my #1 in the moment, and I really, 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 really appreciate and love this one. And I'm so happy that I have so many Mcgrath palettes in my collection, that I have the ability, that I have the privilege to have those palettes in my collection, and I'm really happy right now with the Mcgrath palettes I have. So unless she will come out with a new palette that's really sparked my interest, I think those are the palettes that I will be in the moment in my collection, and I really love and appreciate them. I think they are so beautiful, and I love to play with them on a daily basis. So yeah. This is telling you something. When it comes to Mcgrath, she's really one of my favorite brands, if not my favorite one. Guys, we are at the end of this video. I hope you liked it. If so, I would be really happy if you consider to subscribe this channel, and also give me a thumbs up that I know that you like this kind of content, and maybe also click on the little bell that you get notifications here and there when I'm posting something new. And with that being said, guys, I hope you had some fun. What would be your ranking? Okay, this is maybe a little bit of a harder question. I won't put you through that. I know it's really hard. It was really hard for me. It sounds silly, but when it comes to Mcgrath, I'm not joking around, you know? I'm really not joking around. It's a important topic for me when it comes to eyeshadows. Mcgrath is always an important topic for me, so it wasn't that easy, but in the end I'm not mad about my decisions that I made. So yeah, I think I did it okay. I did an okay job to rank my stuff. I'm not feeling that heartbroken right now. But you know, I love everything from Pat. I can't stress this enough. I love everything that I have, so I'm really glad that I have so many palettes in my collection that I can switch around, play around. But also just with one palette, guys, it would be more than enough, you know? I really love it. But I won't get rid of anything from Pat in the near future. I don't see that for myself, so yeah. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope we will see each other in my next one. And until then, bye.